Hello, and welcome to the DIY construction materials tier list. This is going to be a scale of how good a certain material is for the average household or farmstead DIY construction, fabrication, or repair job in the hands of a beginner DIYer. So this is someone with very basic knowledge. They know how to use a hammer and a basic cordless drill, and maybe some staples as well. As well as how to use a chemical bond like a basic glue, silicone, or wood sealer. So first up, we've got our first category. It's fasteners. This is things that you use to hold things together. All right, and there's two main types of fasteners on this tier list. They're going to be metal fasteners, they're en masse somewhere else, and chemical fasteners, like glues or other adhesives. So, first up, we have nails. Nails are really cheap. They're easy to use. You just hit it with a fucking hammer to put it in. I think nails are pretty based. All right. The only downside to nails is that they're difficult to remove. Next fastener, screws. Relatively cheap. They have really amazing tensile resistance as opposed to nails, which have bad tensile resistance, but nails are good at absorbing linear and shear forces, where screws are a little bit weaker in that aspect, comparatively, for the price point. The bonus with screws is that they're easy to remove, but usually they're going to require a power drill to install and raw materials, so they're a bit pricey. So I'll mark them as good, just below nails. Nails really are some of the best fasteners for DIY stuff. If you need something to stay semi-permanently, nails are pretty much going to do you. Next up, we have our first chemical fastener. It is Gorilla Glue. It's literally monkey. It holds for millennia. It dries at temperatures anywhere between the surface of the sun and winter in Antarctica. It literally chemically fuses two surfaces together like an absolute Chad and dicks out for Harambe. This is our first based in Chad pilt here. Next up, we have Elmer's Wood Glue. Yeah. It's weak. It takes way too long to dry for what it actually does. It's not even a monkey. The only benefit really is that it is in fact a glue, as advertised. The branding, it's a cow. Cows aren't even cool. Downside of chemical adhesives is that they're a semi-permanent solution. All right, next up, silicone. It instantly seals anything at a medium strength. It creates a watertight seal, which is amazing. You get a cool gun tool to apply it. And caulking Lamau! But yeah, it's semi-permanent, but that's just chemical adhesives. It's all so pretty based. The cool gun really puts it over the top here. Just a moment before we move on to construction materials as opposed to fasteners, we're going to take a second to touch on wood joinery. Wood joinery is really, really awesome, super cool, gorgeous to look at, but it usually doesn't require power tools, which is a big bonus for DIYers. But the skill and time commitment to create real quality joints with hand tools, it's just not efficient enough for most DIYers, so I'm not going to include it in this tier list, unfortunately. So first up for construction materials, we have woods. Plywood. It's dirt cheap, it's mostly glue, so it's a pretty robust material, and it's lightweight. But the huge downside to plywood is that it has literally no grain regularity whatsoever. It's random grains all over the place, but it's mostly glue, but it's going to move a lot randomly and unexpectedly. It's pretty weak, it's flimsy, and you can't use it for any load-bearing components, so it's kind of just the worst wood. Next up, we have melamine. Oh my god, this is another based and Chad-pilled tier. It's literally just better plywood in every way. It's just as cheap, it's just as lightweight, it has the same flaws at it, but with the added benefit of a protective plastic sheath that makes it basically hydrophobic on most of its surface area and essentially fireproof for most DIY and homesteading settings. Its name also reminds me of Vegemite, which makes me think of Australia, which is a based continent, so clearly it's another S+. Next up we have a hardwood, maple. It's a good hardwood. It looks nice, but it's pretty expensive. The drawback is that it has really strong grain patterns. This is a bonus for construction, as you can utilize this tactically in your builds based on using maple cut in with a grain orientation in a certain direction that benefits your component. It looks really, really nice though, but it is going to move a lot because of those strong grains, which could be a downside depending on what you're using it to build. Next up, we have poplar. This is a pretty weak, soft wood. It's kind of like the entry-level wood. It is probably the cheapest non-plywood wood you can get. It looks absolutely terrible. Sure, you can probably stain it and make it look half decent, but honestly, the look doesn't appeal to me. The added benefit it has subtle grain patterns, so it lends itself well to staining in every capacity. But the real downside is that it's a super soft wood, which makes it easy to nail and screw into, but it'll probably become a pile of sawdust within 5 years of building literally anything with it. Up next is oak. It's another hardwood. It's pretty strong for the price point. It's a medium price point. It looks pretty nice when it's stained, but it has really, really strong grain patterns, and as mentioned before, that can have some serious downsides. And I think just with the look of oak and the general hardness of the wood, I think it's not worth it for the price point. Next up, we have mahogany. This is literally a based in Chad pilled wood. I don't care what anybody says. They literally use this to build pirate ships. It's naturally water resistant. It's naturally antibacterial and antifungal and all these other amazing properties that you can use in home, which it lends itself well to the kitchen, anywhere that animals are involved. It's just an absolutely amazing wood, and as a huge upside, it looks gorgeous, stained or not. This wood is going to look absolutely amazing whatever you do with it. Absolute Chad tier wood. Moving on, for metals, we have aluminum. This is just going to be sheet aluminum. It's pretty cheap. It's super versatile. It's very lightweight. It's flexible, which can be a huge benefit and also a downside. Say if you're using it for something like wiring, or you need a compliant mechanism in some way. Aluminum's pretty flexible, and it's going to stand up to a lot of abuse. That's also a downside, though, is that it is pretty soft. Major damages like denting could be an issue over the time, whereas scratches won't be. Some give and take. Stainless steel is the other metal on this list for structural applications only. Obviously, it has a million other applications for tooling and fasteners, but purely as a structural component, I think stainless steel is a solid A. It's extremely durable and resistant to literally everything that could possibly be thrown at it, but it's really heavy, and as a construction material specifically, it's very expensive. All right, now we have our last 3 tier list members. Glass. You can see through it is the main benefit of glass as a structural component. But it has the drawbacks of being very, very fragile, extremely heavy for actually how much volume it occupies. Next is plexiglass, which is basically just better plastic in some cases. We're counting acrylic sheet also, so you can get a varying hardness to kind of fix the rubberizing of plexi. That just is naturally a plexiglass. You can see through it. It's much more durable than glass. It's pretty lightweight. It's pretty cheap. But plexi specifically can be kind of floppy, and you don't really want floppy windows for ventilation reasons. All right, PVC. Chad tier material, absolutely amazing material. It's very lightweight, it's pretty cheap, it's super versatile. You can get it injected molded, or you can easily drill spots for components to go for easy modification of any PVC sheet material. It is so great. But the drawback is that it's a plastic, it's an oil-based material, so it's going to be kind of toxic once you start to process it. But that's the only knock at it. That concludes the tier list. Thank you. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What materials do you wish was on the tier list? I'm interested to know what the community has to say. Thanks for watching.